Question 12 is a histogram question, and histograms are just like a bar chart. It's a bar chart. However, it's got different width bars, and we actually measure the frequency not just as height as we would in a bar chart, but the frequency is area. So all we're really doing with a histogram is it's a jazzed up way of finding the area of a rectangle, which is its width times by its height. And that gives you the area or the frequency. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's just the area of a rectangle. So the table in the histogram shows some information about the time in minutes taken by a group of students to travel to college in 1 week. Table, histogram. Part A says use the histogram to complete the table. Part B also says use the table to complete the histogram. And there's 4 marks up for grabs there, 2 marks each. I always find it easier to do it all together. Generally, they're going to ask you to do it both ways. They'll be missing some information in the table and they'll be missing some of the information in the histogram. What you need to do first of all is find the key. You need to find the way of unlocking the histogram and the table. So we need to find out what they have in common. If I zoom out, I know you can't see the numbers very well there, but I just need a clear shot of things for now. Let's have a look what they've given me both pieces of information for. So time in minutes from 0 to 20, they've given me the frequency for that. Do I have a bar for it? 0 to 20, yes I do. So that can be used as my key. Are there any more? They've given me 20 to 30 and they haven't given it to me in the histogram. Here they haven't given me 30 to 40 in the table, but they've given me 30 to 40 in the histogram. They haven't given me 40 to 60, but they have given me 40 to 60 here. And they have given me 60 to 100, and they haven't given me the histogram for 60 to 100. So this is purely the only key I have to unlocking the scale of this. And by the scale, I mean the frequency density that goes up the side. I need to know how much each of these parts are worth. So let's have a look. This bar has a frequency, that was representative of a frequency of 20. I'm going to write 20 in there. So this bar, or this rectangle, has an area of 20. It's got a width of 20 also. So I need to ask myself that a width of 20 multiplied by a height of what is going to give me an area of 20. The calculation for this would be the area, which is 20, divided by the width, which is also 20. And that would equal 1. So my bar has a height of 1, because 20 times by 1 gives me 20. So now I know that 2 lots of 5 with regards to our graph is equal to 1. I can put the rest on. So that's 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. So now I've got my scale. The rest of it should be pretty easy. So here I'm going to find this empty space. It's for the 30 to 40 category. So there's the 30 to 40 bar. It goes from 30 to 40, so it's got a width of 10. And it's got a height of what I know now to be 4.5. So in order to find the area of that rectangle, I can just do 10 times by the 4.5, and that would give me 45. So I know that this has a frequency of 45. Now I'm going to look at the 40 to 60. So that's here. I'll zoom in so you can see it a bit better. 40 to 60. So it's got a width of 20. And it's got a height of 3. So with a width of 20 times by its height of 3 gives me an area or frequency of 60. So that's my table filled. There's my 2 marks. With regards to how those marks are allocated, you get 1 mark for showing that you understand the fact that frequency density is based on the frequency divided by the width. So you get 1 mark for that. You get the second mark for getting the 45 and the 60 correct. Now for part B, we need to draw the histogram bars in, and we need to draw it for this one first, 20 to 30. So let's look. This one has a width of 10 and it's got an area of 30. So I need to ask myself, 10 times by what is 30? The mathematical method would be the frequency of 30 divided by the width of 10 is going to give me a frequency density of 3. So that bar goes up to 3. So it's 10 wide because it goes from 20 to 30 and it goes up to 3. So it goes to there. I can draw that in. And there you go. That's that bar. The next one has an area or frequency of 48. It's got a width of 40. So I need to do 48 divided by the width, which is 40. And 48 divided by 40 is 6/5, which is 1.2. So this bar has a height of 1.2. So there's 1. Ooh. There's 1. That's 1.5. And because each one is worth 0.1, because there's 10 of them, 1.2 is just going to be there. So I go across to where they wanted it from 60 to 100, and I'm going up to 1.2. So it's going to be that tall. I can draw it in. And that's my 48. Now this is also worth 2 marks. You get 2 marks if you've got 2 correct bars, and you get 1 mark if you have one of the bars the correct height. Question C is a great question. I love this question. They want to work out an estimate for the median time. So you're going to need to use the histogram to work out the median time. Now let's think first of all what the median is. The median is the middle value when they're in order from smallest to largest. Now that's alright when they're lined up, and it's alright when they're asking just for a class interval in which the median lies. However, here they're asking specifically for a time. Now this can be as complicated or as simple as you choose to make it. I like to take quite as simple an approach then as possible. So let's zoom out so we can see the table and my workings. Alright, estimate for the median time. Well, first of all, let's work out how many people I've got. So what's my total frequency? So total frequency, if I add all of those up together, and remember it is a calculator paper, add them up, I get 203. I'm looking for the median, so I want to find the halfway point there. So I'm looking for the 101.5th of a person. Now you can't get 0.5th of a person. If you could, it would be super messy. But we are looking for where that lies in our table first of all, and then we'll go to the histogram. So let's have a look, as we would if this was a group frequency table and they wanted the interval in which the median lies. Here I've got 20 people. Here I've got up to my 50th person. Here then I've got up to my 95th person. And in this group, I go from my 95th person way up into the 100s. So I know that my 105th person is going to be lying in this interval somewhere. The 40 to 60 interval. All right then. Well, let's have a look at what I know. I know that in the time category, 0 to 40 minutes, I've got 95 people. That's fine, but I don't want my 95 people, I want 101. Now I've already identified the fact that that 101 is going to be in the range of 40 to 60 minutes. So let's find how many people I have left to find within this range. I wanted 101.5. I can take away the 95 that are already accounted for. That's going to leave me with 6.5 to find in that group. Now, in this group, there are 60 people. So in that group, we've got 60 people. I want to find the 6.5th person. So I'm going to go ahead and do 6.5 over 60, because that will give me the proportion of people. And I'm not going to put an equals there actually. Once I've found the proportion, I'm going to look at the width of the class. I can do it here and see it's 20. Or if I want the visual, I can look at the graph and see that it's got a width of 20. So I want to find that proportion of 20. It's a calculator paper, so I'll do 6.5 divided by 60 equals whatever, and then I times it by 20, and that will give me 2.16. So that tells me I need to come across in my width by 2.16. That's if I was doing it visually. Here, however, I know that I was up to 42 minutes before I started fiddling about with calculations. So I had that 40 minutes, and now I need an extra 2.16 minutes. So I add those together, and that'll give me 42.16 minutes. Now, with regards to the mark scheme, it's only a 2-mark question, and it's pretty tough for those 2 marks. You get, because there's so many different methods, the mark scheme is quite complicated, but you get 1 mark for finding the proportionality that you're interested in. So that would be this. You get 1 mark for working out the proportion and identifying that you need to find that proportion of the class in which we're looking for the person. That's your first mark. Your second mark then is your accuracy mark. And in order to get that, it's got to be between 41 and 43. So they've been pretty generous there. I would get the mark. Now, for the answer mark, this is an FT mark. So they will allow you to gain the marks in this question for any mistakes you follow through. So that's proof again that it's always worth having a go at these questions. 13. Probability tree. There are 4 banana smoothies and 3 apple smoothies in a box. Jenny takes at random 1 smoothie from the box. She writes down its flavour and puts it back in the box. I think if I was Jenny, I'd probably have drunk it first, then put it back in the box, but good on Jenny for having that willpower. Jenny then takes at random a 2nd smoothie from the box. Now, it doesn't say what happened here. Did she drink it? Did she write it down? Did she put it back? It's irrelevant to the question, but I would like to know, personally. Anyway, I want you to complete the probability tree diagram. Now, the important thing here, the most important thing in this passage, is that Jenny puts it back in the box. That means that for my entire tree diagram, there's always going to be the original 7 smoothies in the box. If she didn't put it back in the box, my second leg of outcomes are going to be out of only 6 smoothies, okay? But she puts it back in the box. So she's got a 4 in 7 chance of getting a banana. She's got a 3 in 7 chance of getting an apple. Now that probability doesn't change here because she puts everything back. So it's irrelevant what happened first time. She still has 4 in 7 bananas and 3 in 7 apples. And the same down here. 4 in 7 bananas, 3 in 7 apples. And that's 2 marks. So you get 1 mark for getting the first branch correct, 2nd mark for getting the 2nd branch correct. Part B wants you to work out the probability that both smoothies are apple flavour. So we want Jenny to get apple and apple. Now in probability, and instructs you to multiply the probabilities together. If we had an or question, we would add them. But this isn't and, because we want apple and apple. So let's have a look at what's happening to Jenny. This is Jenny. This is Jenny here. So she selects an apple smoothie first. And then she selects another apple smoothie. So the probability of Jenny getting an apple in the first place was 3 in 7. And I multiply that by the probability of Jenny getting an apple second, which is 3 in 7. Multiplying fractions is the easy one that goes straight across the top. 3 times 3 is 9, and 7 sevens are 49. So that's my probability, 9 over 49. This again is a 2-mark question. You get 1 mark for showing that you understand, you multiply these probabilities together. You then get the 2nd mark for getting your answer correct. You could give it, it's an OE mark, which means or equivalent. So you've got 9 over 49. If you had written it as a decimal, then you can get that mark as well. And as a decimal, 4 over 49 is going to be that. So if you've got that answer written down, you would also get the answer mark, okay? Question 14. Now this question is a real thinker, okay? You really have to think about this. And the key to answering this question is all in this final sentence. So, a farmer wants to estimate, and we're dealing with estimates here. We cannot be sure about anything. These are estimates. So a farmer wants to estimate the number of rabbits on his farm. On Monday, he catches 120 rabbits. He puts a tag on each rabbit. He then lets the rabbits run away. On Tuesday, the farmer catches 70 rabbits. 15 of these rabbits have a tag on. Work out an estimate for the total number of rabbits on the farm. So the total number. You must write down any assumptions you have made. And I said that the key to this question is all in the last sentence, and it's about the fact that you have to make assumptions in order to get an answer for this. That's why it's only an estimate. There's nothing concrete here. So let's think about the story of the farmer and the rabbits. So on Monday, he caught 120 rabbits, and they all got tagged. The rabbits all ran away. On Tuesday, he only caught 70 rabbits, of which 15 of them had a tag. Now again, I start thinking about this immediately in a proportional way. There are a few ways of getting it, and the mark scheme shows all of those ways if you would like to check them. But what I think is, all right, well, if 15 of them were tagged, then what is that with regards to proportion originally? So I'm going to look at what proportion that 15 rabbits were out of the 120 that got tagged. Now I'm going to do that on my calculator if needs be. It turns out it's an eighth. So 1/8 of the rabbits that were tagged were caught. Now this is where my assumption comes in. If 1/8 of the rabbits were caught on Tuesday. And they were tagged. And I know that overnight the number of rabbits hasn't changed. You know, hundreds of rabbits didn't just suddenly die. It's an assumption that I'm making. They may have. There may have been a fire in the bush or something, or the river may have flooded their burrows. I don't know. I don't even know like what the possible things could be. But I am making an assumption. And my assumption is that the number of rabbits hasn't changed overnight. So the number of rabbits hasn't changed overnight. And if on Tuesday they had 1/8 of the rabbits that they had on Monday, then because there has to be the same amount of rabbits, and we had 8/8 on the Monday, I know that I need to multiply whatever that proportion is by 8. So the 70 that I caught on Tuesday, I need 8 lots of. And then I'll do 70 times by 8, and that'll give me 560 rabbits. With regards to mark allocation for this question, because of the lots of different ways of working it out and the different complexities, it's quite difficult to give an accurate rundown of the marks. However, if you have evidence on your page of 70 times by 8, you can get 2 marks. If you haven't got that and you've just got 1/8 visible, you would just get 1 mark. But the fact that you got to 70 times 8 means that you must have done the previous calculations right. So if you've shown, so let's just say you didn't get very far and you just wrote the sum out of 15 over 120, that would be an M1 mark, okay? But I'm not going to count that because I got the full 2, 1 mark there, 1 mark down here for times in by 8. So that's my 2 marks for the calculation. I get an accuracy answer mark for getting my 560 correct. And I also get a communication mark for writing my assumption down. Do not forget that assumption. There's a load of assumptions you could make. I was assuming that the number of rabbits wouldn't have changed overnight. You know, there wouldn't be a drastic change in the number of rabbits. That's why I was able to take the proportions as the same for both days. Another assumption that you can make that is listed on the mark scheme is that your sample is random. I mean, there's many different ways. If you've thought of something different and it's not in the mark scheme, ask your teacher.